Welcome back. To the German Chancellor Angela Merkel's visit to Africa, she was in Senegal, Ghana and Nigeria. Her three-nation Africa tour began in Senegal, where she was hosted by President Macky Sall. At a news conference alongside the Senegalese president in Dakar, Angela Merkel said she was traveling with a delegation of business leaders to promote investment in Africa. Both leaders agreed that investment and development are needed to improve youth development in the country.
We are learning. When it comes to economic engagement, the German state does not invest. Rather, private companies. They have to take the decision, and we can help them come to this decision. But we cannot take on 100% of the risk. The president said to me in our meeting that perhaps the perception of African countries is still much too negative, given the opportunities for development that he mentioned. And if you only ever see the risks, if you only focus on the risk you are taking on, then perhaps you are not giving Africa enough credit. Just as sometimes an idealized picture is painted of Europe, a somewhat gloomy picture is painted of Africa.
Then the German Chancellor arrived in Ghana on Thursday to continue to promote investment as a means of developing the continent and tackling the immigration crisis in Europe. Germany is deeply divided over Ms. Merkel's decision in 2015 to allow in over 1 million migrants. While she was in Africa, anti-immigration protesters were demonstrating in Chemnitz after a series of violent confrontations that followed the killing of a German man by 2 immigrants. But the German Chancellor was very focused on her trip, describing Ghana as one of the frontrunners of economic development in Africa, and that Germany and Ghana share same values and principles. The Ghanaian president explained further that what he and Mrs. Merkel had discussed, especially as it concerned Ghana's security concerns.
We have to be able to also address the root causes of how come these insurgencies have been able to take root in our areas. And that is the whole business of economic growth, the training of our youth, the acquisition of skills, and the creation of opportunities that would allow people to have a more positive engagement with life, rather than throwing bombs and maiming and destroying people.
On the final leg of her tour, the German Chancellor arrived in Abuja, Nigeria's federal capital city, for her all-important meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari. During a joint news conference after their meeting, the German Chancellor emphasized the need to create economic opportunities for young Nigerians to reduce motivation for leaving their home. According to the German government, there are around 8,000 Nigerians in Germany who have been denied asylum and are obliged to leave the country, with an extra 20,000 of them going through the asylum process with a very low chance of success. Well, President Buhari assured the German Chancellor he was not in support of illegal migration.
We are not, as an administration, agreeing for Nigerians to defy the desert, Sahara Desert, and the Mediterranean, because they feel that there are greener pastures there, whether they are prepared for it or not. We do not support anything illegal and indisciplined.
Nigeria steht jetzt vor Wahlen.
We also agreed an MOU to start car production in Nigeria with Volkswagen and sets an example for many further opportunities for economic cooperation. Today, Nigeria is already an important trade partner for Germany and vice versa. It's our second biggest trade partner in sub-Saharan Africa, and in the area of energy in particular, there is still a lot we can do.
Good governance, den die jungen Menschen.
She also reiterated President Buhari's promise of free, fair and credible elections in 2019. And by late afternoon, Mrs. Merkel was well on her way back to Germany. So, Two major visits in 1 week, and what did we learn? Former Permanent Secretary at the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Joe Keshi, spoke earlier about what he made of the visits and the benefits for Nigeria.
Number one, they are looking at the demography of the continent. The population of this continent is growing at a very fast pace, and is beginning to look as if Africa is going to be, it's a big, huge market in the making. Secondly is the fact that they're also interested in seeing Africa overcome its own underdevelopment so as to stem the tide of, of migration, which is what they're experiencing.
As we slowly come to the end of the program, one of America's leading Republicans and two-time presidential candidates, John McCain, was laid to rest over the weekend. It appeared more of a state funeral as 4 past presidents of the United States were present.
The funeral began with a motorcade bearing the body of the late Arizona Senator John McCain. They parked the U.S. Capitol en route to the Washington National Cathedral for a memorial to be attended by political leaders. At the memorial service, his wife, Cindy McCain, wept as a singer performed Danny Boy. In what appeared to be a state burial, nearly every major political leader attended the service except U.S. President Donald Trump, to whom McCain had asked not to attend when he was alive. However, top members of the Trump administration, including his daughter Ivanka and son-in-law Jared Kushner, attended, as did White House Chief of Staff John Kelly and National Security Advisor John Bolton. Other guests included former President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle, George W. Bush and his wife Laura, Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, former Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney, comedian Jay Leno, and former Senator Bob Dole and John Kerry. John McCain's daughter, Meghan McCain, delivered a tearful but forceful tribute to her father, whom she said had told her to show them how tough you are, with her eulogy.
The best of John McCain, the greatest of his titles, and the most important of his roles was as a father. Imagine the warrior, the knight of the skies, gently carrying his little girl to bed. Imagine the dashing aviator who took his aircraft hurtling off pitching decks in the South China Seas, kissing the hurt when I fell and skinned my knee. Megan, he said, in his quiet voice that spoke with authority and meant you had best obey. Get back on the horse. I did, and because I was a little girl, I resented it. Now that I am a woman, I look back across that time and see the expression on his face when I climb back up and rode again. And I see the pride and love in his eyes as he said, "Nothing is going to break you." For the rest of my life, whenever I fall down, I get back up. Whenever I am hurt, I drive on. Whenever I am brought low, I rise.
For former U.S. President Barack Obama and George W. Bush, it was praises for McCain and their eulogies.
He was honorable, always recognizing that his opponents were still patriots and human beings. He loved freedom with the passion of a man who knew its absence. He respected the dignity inherent in every life, a dignity that does not stop at borders and cannot be erased by dictators. Perhaps above all, John detested the abuse of power, could not abide bigots and swaggering despots.
So much of our politics, our public life, our public discourse can seem small and mean and petty. trafficking in bombast and insult, in phony controversies, and manufactured outrage. It's a politics that pretends to be brave and tough, but in fact is born of fear. John called on us to be bigger than that. He called on us to be better than that.
Before Saturday, leaders around the world had expressed their condolences but praised the U.S. Senator, whom they praised as upright, friendly, and patriotic.
That's our time on the program. Thank you for watching. I am Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.